So I don't know if the camera is going to get all of this or not, but it's a box. And what is inside of this box is, it's an unopened box, I should say that as well, this is my... Welcome to the Shaw Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Shaw, and today we have got an episode that will be a little bit shorter, but it is on a topic that I very much enjoy talking about, and that topic is winning. And more importantly, when it comes to winning, keeping score when it comes to our youth and growing up and how that impacts your life as you move along. So a little background on myself as a kid. I was ultra competitive. I had an older brother that was 2 years older than me, and I always wanted to beat him. I wanted to beat him at literally every single thing we ever did, whether it was a board game or playing basketball or literally anything in my childhood I wanted to beat my brother at. And it was just this fire that I had. And I understood very early on that if I wanted to win and I wanted to beat him, I needed to work harder. And I was very fortunate that I grew up in a generation where kids all didn't get participation trophies and everybody wasn't a winner no matter how good you did or how bad you did, you got the same reward. When I was growing up, there were winners and there were losers, and only the individual that did the best won. So I remember back very young, I did, kind of field day, and there was all these different events, and you would get a ribbon for each of these different events, but it would be a first place ribbon, a second place ribbon, third place ribbon. And that was something that got enforced with me very early on. I remember even team sports, when I would play, soccer or baseball or these other sports, if you won, you got a little trophy that said champions on it. And that was something that I very badly wanted. And I remember they would have the awards sitting out on the table, and those awards were something that I wanted to earn, something that I wanted to win. I actively competed in a lot of different things as a kid, a lot of different sports, but winning was important. And I understood that if I wanted to do better and I wanted to beat the other kids, that I had to practice harder. I did it was called a Tri-Star basketball competition when I was growing up, and it was kind of put on by the local Optimist Club. And it was essentially a skills test with basketball. So you had to, shoot, and you had to pass, and you had to dribble. And all of these things were scored, and you would kind of compete locally, and then you would compete regionally. And then if you were good enough, you competed at a kind of state level where all the best, from the different regions would come together and compete. And this is something that was very important to me when I was growing up, and I would go and religiously practice. One of the things we had to do with this was shoot free throws. So I would shoot free throws, and I would set different goals for myself. And, this is as a kid. I was a younger kid, but I would stay out, until it was very dark at night. And I had a goal where I had to make, so many different free throws in a row. And, it was something that I very much gravitated towards, was the competition aspect of that. And I was able to win at our local level and the regional level. And then I actually won, the what was, I guess, the state competition, and got at that time, what seemed like a massive trophy. And I remember those trophies being on the table when I went to that contest, and it was held at McNichols Arena. So anybody that's familiar with the Denver Nuggets, when I was growing up, that was where they played. It's now been torn down, and they have a much bigger and nicer arena. But, it's something where you're stepping on that floor where the Denver Nuggets played, and getting to compete when I was a kid and win that competition, win that big trophy, was very impactful to me. But there were a lot of other kids that went to that competition that didn't win, and they didn't get that big trophy. I got to be the one that got the big trophy because I felt like I had put in the hard work and dedication, and essentially walked into the competition with a skill set to win. Fast forward a little bit, I remember very vividly competing in a rec center game. So before I got to play organized sports in seventh grade, I would compete, through our local rec center, and they had basketball games that we would go in, and, up until that point they had kept score. And I remember it was either when I was in fourth or fifth grade, I went to a game and they were no longer going to keep score. And to me, I remember almost losing my mind thinking, how are we going to play a game and not keep score? We're gonna compete, and at the end, we're just gonna say we're tied. So to me, that didn't make sense. I was very upset by this. I went over to my parents and asked my mom if she could keep score, because I just could not accept competing in a game and not knowing if I at the end of the game, if I won or I lost. I needed to have that reinforcement to know if we needed to play better or if we won. And, most of the time if we won, I still would analyze, even at that age, if I could have done better, I could have made another shot, I could have made another play, something like that. But it just didn't sit well with me. And like I said, earlier in my childhood, we had kept score. And then this, whole kind of, we don't want to hurt kids' feelings and we want everybody to get an award and everybody's going to tie. And I just couldn't have disagreed with that more at that age. I got a little bit older and I would go back and volunteer my time to coach the younger kids. So even, first and second graders. And I remember them telling us as a coach that we had to tell those kids that they tied at the end of the game. And I, again, couldn't disagree with that more. So I did not tell the kids that I coached they won or they tied. I told them if they won or they lost, because they needed to hear that. And, looking around at their little faces, I could tell that some of them understood that and some of them didn't care. And you could almost pick out at that age which kids wanted to compete and wanted to win and, cared about the score and cared about, if they were able to make a basket or make a play and that type of thing. And I remember thinking back, and it'd be interesting to know which one of those kids ended up being successful. But my guess would be is the ones that wanted to compete at that age probably wanted to compete when they got older. And that kind of stayed with them, through their grade school years and then into their life as well. And I think there is a lot that can be said about competition and about keeping score. And, this culture that we have where we don't want to hurt people's feelings, or we're not going to tell them if they won or lost. We're going to let everybody tie and they're all going to walk away and they're going to have a party and they're all going to get an award or a trophy and everybody's going to have the same feeling. That just doesn't sit well with me, and it's something that I very strongly disagree with. And so now, being a dad to my sons, they're living in this world and they're not going to get those same opportunities, but I will let them know if they've won or lost. And to me, they will understand, because they've even talked to me about my trophies, right? So there's trophies sitting behind me. And, I will explain to them even now, look, your dad had to go to these competitions and not everybody walked away with a trophy. I had to work very hard to earn the trophies that I have. And not every single time did I get a first place trophy. Sometimes I got second, third, or maybe didn't even get a trophy. But going into those contests, I know I had to work harder. I know I had to perform when it mattered in order to win. And there's this very black and white line of you're either winning or you're losing. I mean, so many sports that we can talk about. Certainly, this is true, where you get to the big game, you get to the championship game or the Super Bowl or whatever, and it's great that you got there, but at the end, there's only one team celebrating. There's only one group of athletes that's celebrating, that gets the trophy, that gets put up as the champion. And this then translates even more in my mind into life as well. So once you're done and done with school, you need to compete with school. And I was very much the same way with this. And my parents looking back, I got rewarded for getting A's. And it was something that was very important to me. When I got my report card, I wanted A's, and I did not get rewarded for B's, definitely not for C's. I had to get A's. And I remember even my sister was 2 years younger than I was, and I would get grades, and then they brought in this system where she would get, I think they might have called it satisfactory or unsatisfactory, but it wasn't an A, B, C, D. It was a satisfactory. And I remember thinking, when I was younger, what is satisfactory? Why is she not getting a grade like I get a grade? And I think that this has had a very big impact on kids in general. And, if you can't get the feedback that you were either successful and you got the win, you got the A, and that type of thing, when you get into life, the simple fact of the matter is that there are winners and there are losers. There are people that are successful and there are people that are unsuccessful. And that is just a simple, hard fact. And so when you tell a kid that they're going to get the same award and, that their participation matters, and, it doesn't matter if they try harder or if they were successful or not successful, they're going to get the same award. When you get into life, that is simply not true. And if you're a kid out there listening to this, if you're a parent out there listening to this, make sure that you want to compete, right? And it's okay to let your kids know if they're successful and if they won. And if they didn't win, sit down and talk to them and say, hey, look, if you want to win, you're going to have to practice. You're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to be dedicated to your craft, whatever you want to be successful in. If you want to get a better grade, you're going to have to study harder. If you want to win a game, you're going to have to practice more. These are things that are very, very important. And again, when you translate that over to life, the kids and people out there that are willing to compete, that are willing to work harder, that are willing to do things the right way are going to be successful in life, and they're going to find their spot, and they're going to work on their craft, and they're going to be competitive with business. They're going to be competitive with their job, and they're always going to take the next step and say, hey, you know what? If I want to separate myself, I'm going to do extra. And this is something that I think is such a great lesson to be learned. And on top of that, taking it even a step further, one of the things that I remember vividly that my parents told me growing up is that I was not allowed to quit. So we had a hard line of winning and losing and performing, and then we had a hard line of not quitting, because I got into, several different situations, whether it was, a sport that I went out for, that I wasn't enjoying, I wasn't maybe getting along with the coach or whatever. But if I started something, I finished something. And it was how I executed that was important. So just because it wasn't going as well as I anticipated, or I was having to deal with some adversity, I was not allowed to quit. And I think that is another very, very important message to send, especially to younger people, just to people in general though as well. You're not allowed to quit. You can't just throw your hands up and say, well, this is not going well for me, or my feelings are hurt, or, I'm losing, I'm just gonna quit and stop and not see this thing through. And so, when you combine that no quit attitude with a drive and a passion to win and to perform, and think about how you do everything and how that's going to get you further ahead, get you closer to that win, get you closer to that better grade, get you, closer to moving up in your job position or whatever it might be. That mentality in life will take you very far. And what I would say is, those kids out there that have that advantage of knowing if they won or lost, and have the advantage of competing, when they get into their lives, that will carry over so much further. Now, one of the things I'm going to end with here is, I have always analyzed my performance when it came to any sport that I competed in, but, more specifically strongman, because that's what, the bulk of my athletic career has been in the sport of strongman. And for me, walking into any competition, what I am trying to do is I'm trying to win. So if I go into any contest and do not win, in my mind, I didn't execute what I was supposed to get done. And therefore, in my mind, it was a failure. Now, there's a lot of people that may agree with that. There's a lot of people that may disagree with that, but I am ultra competitive. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's as competitive as me, because I'm competing in everything. Now, I may not tell you that, and it may not be well known, but in my head, this is always what I'm thinking. I'm always thinking about, how am I going to compete? How am I going to win? How am I going to do just a little bit more than the next person? And that's just how I've been since I was a kid. Like I said, getting into any of my younger competitions or sports, I would go out and practice. I would go out and do extra. But I thought that this would be impactful for, this podcast, this message, and just how it relates to me personally. So what I'm going to do is, the people that are watching on YouTube are going to be able to see this easily. The people that are listening, what I am doing is I'm actually going to pick up a box right now. So I don't know if the camera is going to get all of this or not, but it's a box. And what is inside of this box it's an unopened box. I should say that as well. This is my second place trophy from the 2021 World's Strongest Man contest. So I have not unwrapped this. I have saved this specifically because this is a second place trophy. And leading up to this year's World's Strongest Man, I know without a doubt that looking at this trophy, once I take it out of this box, will be very, very motivating to me, and it will be a very powerful thing for me personally. But in my mind, what this second place trophy represents is the fact that at last year's World's Strongest Man contest, I was the first loser, right? I did not get the job done. I did not win World's Strongest Man. And in my mind, that's what this trophy represents to me, is that I didn't execute fully what I was trying to get done. Now, there's a lot of people out there that probably would say, well, Brian, that's a second place trophy from World's Strongest Man. A lot of athletes would probably kill to have a second place trophy from World's Strongest Man. And that would be a very, very big, kind of career accomplishment for them. But that is not me. And that has not been me my entire life. My passion is winning. And to me, winning is everything. It's what drives me. It's what fires me up. And, when I pull this trophy out of this box, which is happening soon, and this is, why I'm kind of touching on this topic, is because it's about time to pull this trophy out of this box and start looking at it every single day. And that will drive me even harder. I have been very driven, and I've been working very hard on my training, certainly, but having this trophy and keeping it in the box. This is not the first time I've done this, by the way, either. Both in 2017, I got a third place trophy. That one didn't get open for a very long time, and then also in 2018, the same thing. That trophy didn't get open for a very long time. But again, the motivation from opening this up and saving it for the right moment in time and when it needs to be opened up is something that's very important to me. And so, going back to, competing and winning, this second place trophy represents not getting the job done, and it's motivating to me. Now, after this time and when I retire and those different things, the trophies and that may have different meaning to me, but the journey is what's important, and taking all of the steps in the process to win is also something that you have to be willing to do. And sometimes those journeys or that process can be kind of a lonely road that you have to go down by yourself. And I don't expect that every single person listening to this is going to say, wow, I really understand that, and can relate to you on this. But what I'm hoping is that at least in some small way, everybody that does listen to this can say, hey, you know what, I can push myself a little bit harder. And, there's wins that I want to chase. There's stuff that I want to be more competitive in. And it's okay. It's okay to embrace that. And I will be the first one, like I said, to push back on anybody that says that winning and keeping score is not important. You need to play to win. In life, you need to play to win, because that if you don't do that, what are you doing? You're not going to have intent. You're not going to have purpose, and you're not going to be driven to be the best that you possibly can be in whatever you're trying to do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this message. If there's different topics that you want me to speak about, I'm trying to connect with all of you in different ways. What we're going to do is we're actually setting up an email, and it's going to be askbrian@shawstrength.com. So we'll leave that in the description as well. But please shoot over an email, whether it's a topic, it's a guest that you might want to see on the podcast, really any feedback that you guys have. This is something that, we're still learning. And I am always, willing to take that feedback and run with it and give you guys what you want. And my hope is that through the messages that I share and things that I put out on this podcast, that it can have a positive impact and help some people out there to push themselves a little bit harder and drive forward and strive for more in their life, in their world, and just focus on themselves and being great and driving themselves every single day to be great. So hope you guys enjoyed the message. If you did, please share the podcast. Like I said, shoot over your questions, comments, whatever to askbrian@shawstrength.com. And hope you all are doing amazing. I think we're going to sign off there. Go out and be great.